COT's base of operations is right here at thecounciloftime.com. COT has no other outlet or venue. These are other folks who will rebroadcast. Anything COT does is by the main page here at thecounciloftime.com. Step 4. Good afternoon, everybody. There we are. Good afternoon, afternoon. Okay. Everybody should be able to hear me okay. Looks like Mixler is halfway in there. Oh well, we can make do with that, I hope. Let's give us some volume, just a little bit. How's that sound, guys? You guys in Mixler, is that okay? All right. Well, I have a story I'm going to read to you guys. You know, the Father's work is amazing, thorough, very thorough, very strange when you see it, when you're in the thorough of it. But it does accomplish, and everything is purposed. We're going to read a story. Turn to 1 Samuel, chapter 16, if you want to follow me. And the Lord said unto Samuel, How long wilt thou mourn for Saul? He's talking to Samuel. How long wilt thou mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Fill thine horn with oil, and go, and I will send thee to Jesse, to the Bethlehemite, for I provided me a king among his sons. And Samuel said, How can I go? If Saul hear it, he will kill me. And the Lord said, Take an heifer with thee, and say, I am come to sacrifice to the Lord. And call Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show thee what thou shalt do. Thou shalt anoint unto me him whom I name unto thee. And Samuel did that which the Lord spake, and came to Bethlehem. And the elders of the town trembled at his coming, and said, Comest thou peaceably? And he said, Peaceably. I am come to sacrifice unto the Lord. Sanctify yourselves, and come with me to the sacrifice. And he sanctified Jesse and his sons, and called them to the sacrifice. And it came to pass, when they were come, that he looked upon Eliab, and said, Surely the Lord's anointed is before him. But the Lord said unto Samuel, Look not on his countenance, or on the height of his stature, because I refused him. For the Lord seeth not as a man seeth. For man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. Let me stop. How beautiful is that? 1 Samuel 16:7 establishes something everybody should take note of. Samuel was observing based on his eye. He saw someone befitting what the Lord requested. But the Lord said no. No. And then he clarifies that the Lord does not look on the outward appearance. He's not looking at somebody's skill set, because here's what it says. His outward appearance, right, fits what the Lord wants in man's eyes, right? But the Lord said, no, look not on his countenance. Don't look at his height, right? Don't look at his height. Don't look at his qualifications. Don't look at anything you can see. For the Lord does not see the way man sees. Man looks on the outward appearance. The Lord looks on the heart. Qualification is what? The heart. The heart. Then Jesse called Abinadab and made him pass before Samuel, and he said, Neither hath the Lord chosen this. Then Jesse made Shammah to pass, and he said, Neither hath the Lord chosen this. Again Jesse made 7 of his sons to pass before Samuel. And Samuel said unto Jesse, The Lord hath not chosen these. And Samuel said unto Jesse, Are here all thy children? And he said, There remaineth yet the youngest, and behold, he keepeth the sheep. And Samuel said unto Jesse, Send and fetch him, for we will not sit down till he come hither. And he sent and brought forth him in. Now he was ruddy, and with all of a beautiful countenance, a goodly to look at. And the Lord said, Arise and anoint him, for this is he. And Samuel took the horn of oil, and anointed him in the midst of his brethren. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. So Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. Now let me pause. Take note, this is back in the Old Testament, before Jesus had accomplished what he accomplished. The Spirit rested with David, but at the same time it lifted from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. Not some evil spirit from the devil, an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. Just in case you don't understand that, there's a process spoken of in the Old Testament. God said he created the good and the evil. All of it works his will. But he also gave all of us the ability, right, to fend off anything not in alignment with him. So it's not like Saul had to be evil. It is something we contend with all the time. It's in your flesh. So the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul. An evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. It troubled him. Saul's servant said unto him, Behold now, an evil spirit from God troubleth thee. Let our Lord now command thy servants, which are before thee, to seek out a man which is a cunning player on the harp. And it shall come to pass, when the evil spirit from God is upon thee, that he shall play with his hand. Thou shalt be well. And Saul said unto his servants, Provide me now a man that can play well, and bring him to me. Then answered one of the servants and said, Behold, I have seen a son of Jesse, the Bethlehemite, that is cunning in play, and mighty, a valiant man, and a man of war, and prudent in matters, and a comely person, and the Lord is with him. Wherefore Saul sent messengers unto Jesse, and said, Send me David thy son, which is with the sheep. Jesse took an ass laden with bread, and a bottle of wine, and a kid, and sent them by David his son unto Saul. And David came to Saul, and stood before him, and he loved him greatly, and became his armor-bearer. And Saul sent Jesse, saying, Let David, I pray thee, stand before me, for he hath found favor in my sight. And it came to pass, when the evil spirit from God was upon Saul, that David took an harp, and played with his hand. So Saul was refreshed, and was well, and the evil spirit departed him. The Lord anointed David, had chosen David. For what reason? His heart. The Lord then had his spirit lift from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. Right? But David was given a position with Saul because of that evil spirit from the Lord. Now, just so you understand this, that evil spirit from the Lord was not the evil you're thinking of. It was not, right? The evil spirit from the Lord that was troubling Saul was call it a spirit of troubling at best. The writers here depicted this translation states evil, because it's in the root word of the definition, right, of the word that's being used. But a troubling spirit is more of a spirit that causes a person to think about everything, to not know things, to be in a specific frame of mind that would cause you to try and settle yourself by doing everything. But because God did this, he opened the door for David. The Lord is doing something. Right now, I want you to be reminded, had Saul obeyed the Lord, he would not have had the problems he had. He wouldn't, no matter what spirit he had. All he had to do was obey. I want to point out something else to the heart of why I'm reading this. David had a heart, a good heart, right? For the Lord. He loved what he did. He did what he did with a seriousness and a kindness. And the Lord selected him because of his heart, not because he was battle ready, not because he was the best, person to administer anything for Israel, because of his heart. When the heart is right, everything else can be cultivated. With the Spirit of the Lord with you, you can become anything. But it begins with a heart. God made this clear all the way back in Samuel. It's not the qualifications we think of that has the Lord use us. You all get that? It's because of the heart. You guys accepted Christ. You saw the love of your Father through Christ. You accepted him because of your hearts, not because you can do everything right, not because of your skill sets and ingenious, inquisitive minds, because you have a heart for Christ. You know what that means? That means you're called. And when you're called, your Father in heaven can cultivate anything within you to do something very specific. So you may not know this, but you were selected. You are called. And you are being used. Oftentimes, a person can be used outside of their own knowledge. You may not realize it, but you're doing something you may not know that you're doing. And what you're doing is not evil. What you're doing is from the Lord. You've been empowered, but we need to discover that. So the first step is to let you know that God does not pick people based upon their abilities. God does not pick people based upon, what they look like, how well they can fit the part. But he calls people based upon the heart, and it just so happens that with you, he put that heart in you. See, if you believe in Christ, you've been called. You've been 1,000% called. If you believe in Christ, you've been called. You cannot believe in Christ without your Father having put that measure of faith in you. He does not put a measure of faith in a demon. He does not put a measure of faith in the devil. He puts a measure of faith in his children. Your true origins. So So remember that. Get that established first. He chose you. He called you first. And something is being accomplished. And it may be outside of your scope of view. But something is being accomplished. Something. Now let's continue. Chapter 17. You guys still with me? So David is called. It says, now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle, and were gathered together at Shokah, which belongeth to Judah, and pitched between Shokah and Azekah, in Ephistamin. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched by the valley of Elah, and set the battle in array against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on the mountain on one side, and Israel on a mountain on the other side. And there was a valley between them. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath, of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. And he had a helmet of brass upon his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail. And the weight of the coat was about 5,000 shekels of brass. And he had greaves of brass upon his legs. And he had a target of brass between his shoulders. And the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam. His spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron. That's a lot. And one bearing a shield went before him. And he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel, and said unto them, Why are ye come out and set in your battle in array? Am not I a Philistine, and ye servants of Saul? Choose ye a man for you, and let him come down to me. If he be able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him, and kill him, then shall ye be our servants, and serve us. And the Philistines said, I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together. When Saul and all Israel heard those words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. So let's get this established in 17:11. Everybody was afraid. They were afraid. Okay? Everybody was afraid. Now David was the son of the Ephrathite and of Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse. And he had 8 sons, and the man went among the men for an old man in the days of Saul. And the 3 eldest sons of Jesse went and followed Saul to the battle. And the names of his 3 sons, here we go, that went to the battle were Eliab, the firstborn, and the next unto him was Aninabad, and the third Shammah. And David was the youngest, and 3 eldest followed Saul. But David went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. And the Philistine drew near morning and evening, and presented himself 40 days. So Goliath is out there 40 days. He's out there 40 days. Likely, baiting them on. Come on and fight. Can you imagine that? 40 days. He's defying Israel. He's defying the Lord while he's defying Israel, right? He's defying their armies. And Jesse said unto David his son, Take now for thy brethren an ephah of this parched corn, that these 10 loaves, and run to the camp to thy brethren. So he's sending David to feed his brothers. And carry these 10 cheese unto the captain of their thousands. And look how they brethren fare, and take their pledge. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. And David rose up early in the morning, and left the sheep with the keeper, and took and went as Jesse commanded him, and he came to the trench as the host was going forth to fight, and shouted for the battle. For Israel and the Philistines had put the battle array, army against army. And David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage and ran into the army, and came and saluted his brethren. And as he talked with him, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words. And David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were sore afraid. So Goliath comes, he makes his speech again. This time they run. Everybody's frightened of this guy. He's too big, so they run. And the men of Israel said, this is 17:25, and the men of Israel said, have ye seen this man that has come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. And David spake to the man that stood by him, saying, what shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? Now let me pause. Isaiah 17:26 shows David's heart for the Lord, for the living God, and God's decrees. Nobody called these armies the Lord's armies, or the armies of the living God, but David. Did they? Nobody did. Only David. Why? Because David regards the living God. That's why. David does. In fact, in your lives, how many people have mentioned something of the living God or of Christ, but they did not mention God or Christ? But you did. How many times has a person failed to mention God or Christ, and then something in you rises up, almost like you want to give somebody a reminder that that is of the Lord, that this is of the living God? David had that same zeal within him. That is zeal of the heart for the living God. Right? Now, of course, David was probably not big enough to back up what he was saying. Now, was he? He couldn't just run up to Goliath and do anything to him. But his heart was on fire for the living God. He believed. Now, keep in mind also, in Isaiah 16, it was stated that the Spirit of the Lord was upon David from that day forward. So that's why he called that the armies of the living God. So let me ask you this. Why do you have that reminder in you when somebody fails to say something is of the living God, but in your heart something rises up and you want to remind everybody that something is of the living God? What is that? David was anointed, and the Spirit of the Lord rested upon him from that day forward. What about you? Why is it in your heart? Because the Spirit of the Lord is upon you. Did you know that? The Spirit of the living God is upon you through Christ. That's why it's in you too. That's why you have a zeal within you for the living God. You can be numb all day, frowning all day long. And if someone pops up and says Jesus is not real, something rises up within you, and you want to make a correction instantly. That is the Spirit of God resting upon you. It is with you by way of Jesus Christ. Do you understand that? The same Spirit that was upon David is upon you, all of you. That same Spirit. That's why you rise up internally, even though you may not be able to back up that authority you feel rising up. It's in there. But there's a bit more we need to examine. So David refers to the armies as the armies of the living God in 1 Samuel 17:26. And the people answered after this manner, saying, So shall it be done to the man that killeth him. And Eliab his eldest brother heard when he spake unto the men. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, Why camest thou down hither? And with whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride. Let me stop. 1 Samuel 17:28. He's telling you all about David. It's his brother. Trust me, he knows about his brother. First thing he says is, I know your pride and the naughtiness of your heart. For thou art come down that thou mightest see the battle. David wanted to see a fight. This is what his brother thought. His brother also lets us know that David was prideful and his heart was naughty. This is David before the Spirit of the Lord rested upon him. Do you hear me? So he was flawed, was he not? He was prideful, and his heart was naughty, not in the right place. But God said what? God selected him because of his heart. He may have been prideful. His heart may have been naughty. That means he was flawed. That means he had issues, just like all of us do. We have things that go on with us. But when the Spirit of the living God rests upon you, you start changing. You start changing. You're not the same way you used to be. You may have been prideful. You may have had a naughty heart, feet that were swift to run to mischief. You may have had attributes that the Lord hated. But when the Spirit of God rests upon you, you start changing. It's part of your life to deal with that. You deal with that change. And you know what? You know this to be true. That's why it's written all of us have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Because we all dealt with something and deal with things. The Lord did not pick you because of those things. See, it's the Lord who made the change in you, not you. The Lord did. He picked you. He placed you. He's raising you. Right? He already knows what he's dealing with. And I tell you today, he loves you anyway. Beyond your pride. Beyond your naughtiness of heart. Beyond your feet that are swift to run to mischief. All these ways that you used to have. Those were all parts of the flesh. But his Spirit rests upon you. That is your righteousness. And without it, there is no righteousness. So your Father in heaven has essentially caused you to be born spiritually on this earth above and beyond what you initially were. He's making that difference. That's his task. And he's been doing it for some time now. and you are not the same. Doesn't matter who you are, you're not the same. Why? Because our Father does a perfect work. He's been working on you. Can't you see it? Can't you see who you used to be and who you are now and who you are slowly becoming? Can't you see it? That's what your adversary does not like. That's what he hates. That's what he can do nothing about. Oh, but we're not done. We're not done. So his brother is calling him out on his ways, on the ways of David, that he truly is. He has naughtiness of heart. Right? He says, for thou art come down, that thou mightest see the battle. And David said, what have I now done? Is there not a cause? And he turned from him toward another and spake after the same manner. And the people answered again after the former manner. And when the words were heard which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul. And he sent him. And David said, Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against a Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. David said to Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock, and I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered him out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God. You hear that? 1 Samuel 17:36 reveals David's motivation. He said this is going to happen to him, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God. When the Spirit of the Lord is upon you, right, you end up defending the will of God in the earth. You don't want anybody to defile God's name in the earth, even when you may have just sinned 2 seconds ago. And I'm telling you, that defense of all things of your Father will rise up within you. It will rise up within you. Why? Because you love your Father. Because the Spirit of the living God makes you family. It makes you family. Now, you may not be able to back up what you're saying. That's not the point here yet. The point is to let you know that the Spirit of the living God, the same Spirit that was upon David, is with you right now. That same Spirit. You have the same disposition as David had. But the Lord did something far greater with you than with David. If somebody came in COT right now and said, there is no Christ, all of you would be kindled. Kindled by way of the Spirit going in instant defense of Jesus of Nazareth. Now again, you may not be able to back up anything. Possibly the scriptures won't come together right. But the zeal is there. I want you to see that. Because you don't do that on your own. That's the Spirit rising up within you. Because you're made family by way of the Spirit. Let's continue this. So David wants to go against Goliath. And in 1 Samuel 17:36, David recounts a story of him defending the sheep. One of the sheep were taken, and he went out and slew a bear and a lion. And he said he's going to do the same thing to the Philistine. David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of the Philistine. Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee. So he gives in. Now watch this. And Saul armed David with his armor, and he put a helmet of brass upon his head. Also he armed him with a coat of mail. And David girded his sword upon his armor. And he essayed to go. And he had not proved it. That means he had not trained in it. He had not gotten used to it or anything. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David put them off him. So Saul gives him his armor, thinking, you're going to need this. And David says, nope, I can't take this. I can't fight in this. I'm not going to fight in this. And he gives the armor back to Saul. Now that's something notable here. When David goes forward, he is not dressed in battle array like everybody else. No. He goes forward as he is. Isn't that something? David goes forward as he is, not in battle array. Just like you. You tried to go forward in life like the world. And your father said no. Something happened, and you could not go forward looking like the world. Don't you find that funny? That what the world does to defeat a situation, you cannot do that. It never worked for you. Isn't that funny? You ever try somebody else's technique and it fails? Huh? You ever try that? And it just absolutely fails. You cannot go even against the troubles of this world like everybody else. Not going to work out for you the same way. You notice that? Let's continue. So David took all that stuff off, and he took his staff in his hand, and he chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in the shepherd's bag which he had, even a scrip. And his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. The Philistine came and drew near unto David, and the man that bare the shield went before him. And when the Philistine looked about, he saw David, and he disdained him. That's when you look at somebody and you just twist your face up. That's what Goliath did. For he was but a youth, a ruddy and a fair countenance. Right, so can you imagine a slim, boyish-looking guy out there, ready to fight, and he's bony, not really sturdy, but just a young, not knowing anything, scruffy-looking fella. And the Philistine said to David, Am I a dog that thou comest me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield. I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. Have you noticed he did not move his message at all? He didn't make up anything else. Nope. He was very direct, very bold. just like you're bold when that spirit rises up within you. All right? Now, you may not have your slingshot with rocks, but it still rises up within you. I'm going to show you something now. Something you probably did not see yet. So David states what he states. He says, this day, this is 1 Samuel 17:46, this day the Lord will deliver thee into mine hand. I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee. And I will give the carcass of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with the sword and spear. For the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. 1 Samuel 17:47. Here's another declaration that everybody should know. Everybody should know. The Lord saveth not with sword and spear. He does not save with weapons. He does not need man's weapons. He does not do what he does with man's weapons. He doesn't say it that way. For the battle is the Lord's. So David came to him essentially unarmed in comparison with the rest of the world. And it is true, God does not save with the sword and spear. He does not. And it came to pass when the Philistine arose and came and drew near to meet David, that David hasted and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag and took thence a stone, and he slang it. That's what it says. He slang it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon the face of the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine, and slew him. For there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and set upon the Philistine, and took his sword, and drew it out of a sheath thereof, and slew him, and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. And the men of Israel and Judah arose and shouted, and pursued the Philistines, until thou come to the valley, and the gates of Ekron. And the wounded of the Philistines fell down by the way to Sharon, even unto Gath, and unto Ekron. And the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistines, and they spoiled their tents. And David took the head of the Philistine, and brought it into Jerusalem. But he put his armor in his tent. And when Saul saw David go forth against the Philistine, he said unto Anbar, the captain of the host, Anbar, whose son is this youth? Anbar said, As thy soul liveth, O king, I cannot tell. And the king said, Inquire thou whose son this stripling is. And as David returned from the slaughter of the Philistines, Anbar took him and brought him before Saul, with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said to him, Whose son art thou, thou young man? And David answered, I am the son of thy servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite. There it is. There it is. Now, here's what you may not have caught. David had the sling, correct? And he took up 5 smooth stones, or some smooth stones, something that's randomly in the earth, right? I want you to see something. David took up something that's found in the earth that you can pick up anywhere. Anywhere. And he picked them There are a whole bunch of them down there. He just took up 5 smooth ones and appointed those 5 smooth ones to be his ammunition. And he slew a giant with it. Many of you don't understand what's happening in your life. So let me tell you. Something in your family line, wherever the Lord has put you, had some sort of force in it. A dark force. A force that nobody could defeat. Something was happening that nobody stopped. How do you know nobody stopped it? Because when you were born here on this earth, you were smack dab in the middle of it. And guess what? That darkness touched you. It got to you. What you didn't realize was you were that stone being picked up. You were. You were confronted with something like Goliath, and you were not the slain. You were the stone. You were the stone that was picked among many against that darkness. And you were slung right into that darkness. Many of you are here on this earth, and that's just one of the purposes. But you were put right in the middle of that darkness. And you sunk in. When you were in your day of trouble, nobody came to help. Because you didn't know that you were the stone that was to kill that part of that darkness. You were the stone to kill that Goliath. You were the help, you just couldn't recognize it. See, when you went into that darkness and you sunk into it and you were touched, yeah, it may have messed you up emotionally and everything else for a time. That didn't make a difference. You know why? Because you killed that darkness. See, because after you had your encounter with that darkness, and you cried out for everybody to come and nobody came, something changed within you. Then when you responded to Christ, the deal was sealed. Do you not know that you killed the darkness in the place the Lord put you? Because you won't permit that to happen to anybody else. You have obstructed the path of that giant. You were the first one, slung right in the forehead of that trouble, to put a halt to it. You disrupted. It didn't want you around. Isn't that something? Because of you, it can't touch others. That's why no one could come for you, because you were the stone that was slung into that darkness. That's why no help came. Imagine being that stone that was slung into the forehead of Goliath. That stone would have been in shock as soon as it touched Goliath, not knowing that by the power of the Most High, it sunk in. And that stone would have said, I'm stuck. I'm going to go back with the other stones, but I'm stuck in a strange place. Not knowing that it was put there on purpose. The stone would know of no battle no glory, no anything. On the outside, can you see what's happening? The stone would not know. Because of you, there is no giant. It can't do what it normally does. It's broken, destroyed. Because of you. Is there something out of all of us? The Lord just picked you. Many are called, all those stones, few are chosen. If few were picked up and put in the satchel. Only a few. You're one of those few. When you have one of those stories where nobody came when you prayed, you're one of those few. That's exactly what God did to you. Do you not know that now wherever you go, that type of darkness knows exactly what you are? You know exactly what it is. Now that's how you break a tyrant, a generational curse from touching everybody else. That's what your father did to you. So now that you know you were a stone, picked up and slung right into the darkness, does that shed new light on your past? You're starting to see your past for what it is and how closely your past mirrors stories in the Bible, not just the story of David. Oh no. There are at least 15 other stories that are direct mirrors of your life. The Lord is very consistent. He works these same works continuously. They are mysterious indeed. But have you noticed? They are the reason everything went forward. And everything is going to be completed. Everything. That's what you are. So, you have the Spirit of the Lord, chapter 16. All right? Chapter 17, yes, you're prideful and everything else, so was David, but with the Spirit of the Lord, you start changing. And yes, you were the stone that killed the giant. That's why you're placed in the middle of darkness. Anybody ever look around? If you're one of those who can look around, right? And you say, wow, God put me right in the middle of a mess. He had me born in the middle of a mess. Then you're a stone. You're a stone. Right? If you were abused and mistreated and all this, that, and the other, you're there to break generational curses that have been in your family, and nothing has had power to get rid of it until you came. You prayed for help and no help came, you thought, because you were sent as the help. You didn't know that you were the projectile, that you would issue the killing blow to that darkness. That's why no help came. How can help come to the bullet? With the Spirit of the Lord, I'm telling you, that's only the beginning. Oh, that's only understanding the beginning. It's something in the Old Testament. Not everybody had this privilege, but all of you All of you are partakers of the Spirit now. See, back in those days, the Spirit was descended on one person, and it was lifted from another. In this case, in this day and age, all of you share that Spirit. Share that Spirit. Your journey. And regardless if that journey ends tonight, or in another 20 years, or another 50 or 100 years, the Lord is with you. That's why you believe in Him. Every day you wake up, every moment of the day, you're reminded, when you believe in Christ, when you believe in your Father, I'm telling you, the only way that can happen is with the Spirit of truth. It is with you. You'll know if you don't have that Spirit with you anymore, because you will not believe in Christ Jesus. Do you know that? That Spirit is with you. So what's been the problem, you may ask? We've been listening to guidance similar to that of the world, and not the guidance of our Father and of His Christ. That's what has gone a little haywire, just a little, but it too is purposed. It's all purposed. That lets many of you know who you are now. I hope you go back and read this story. There are so many things in this story, in these 2 chapters. They're quite mind-blowing. Examine it, read it, get that in your spirits, and be thankful. Be thankful. This is only one of many things that you are. One of many things. And the Lord knows exactly what He's doing. Oh, and the biggest thing is, He does not make mistakes. What He purposes, He purposes. You're here because something is being accomplished. Like in Revelation, it talked about a white stone and her new name. Is that the reference for the story? Say, no, it can be, but no. This is for right now. This is for right now. Now, if you only heard part of this, you won't get the first part. You might be a little lost in the sauce. You have to hear the whole thing, right? Because the story of David is prefaced. He's just an individual who was not physically qualified to do anything he did. But God does not choose based upon any outward appearance. God chooses based upon the heart. There were others, or his other brothers, some were tall and strong in stature, experienced in war. They were not anointed. David was anointed because of his heart. So when the Spirit of the Lord rests upon him, his heart went directly towards the living God. God selects based upon the heart, not based upon outward appearance. We learn that in Isaiah 16. Isaiah 17. We learn a few things. One notable thing is, you were slung into the darkness to sink into the forehead of that darkness that had your family in a grip that persisted over time. And when you came, you marked the end of its path. You abruptly halted its path. But there are other things too. These stories in the Bible identify you so perfectly. They are a blessing to know. Also, we know that David's brothers, you pick this up in chapter 17, David's brothers knew him, and they said he was prideful with a naughty heart. We also know this because of his activities with Bathsheba later on. He did have a naughty heart. So what made the difference? The Spirit of the Lord. So let me tell you this, because of Christ, because of what he did, because God called you. You are the righteousness of Christ. You're decreed that. You didn't earn that title. That is placed upon you. What God is doing in your life, it's not you doing it. It is him doing it. He sent you here to this earth. He did. He had you created. He did. You didn't do that yourselves. He did that. He gave you a measure of faith. He did. He is the one that appointed you that his Spirit would rest with you. He did that. In the same way David rose up in heart for those who defied the living God, so do you rise up when somebody denies Christ. It's the same Spirit. The qualifications are in what God has put in you. Not what you develop, but what he puts in you. That's why a mule gave wisdom. The mule did not sit in school to train itself in how to talk. No. That's what the Spirit does. That same Spirit is with all of us. How beautiful a thing. Hey, that's all I wanted to share with you guys today. That tiny little story. Those smooth rocks that were picked up out of so many on the ground, you can find those anywhere and everywhere. Many of them. He took a few, and he slew what could not be taken down, and what frightened an entire army away, he took down with one stone. That's why you're here. That's why you're sent. Your belief in Christ is everything. Your faith is everything. And you see how your faith is central to everything. But that it's your Father who has given you a born-again spirit. It's your Father who has deemed you the righteousness of Christ. It is your Father that selected you, that the Spirit would rest upon you. So that when somebody challenges Christ or the living God, something rises up within you, just like it did with David. That's from your Father. All of it's from your Father. The work he's doing is to have you fully delivered, to have you fully saved, and he will accomplish what he set out to do. Understand it and embrace it. That's your Father in heaven. God bless each of you. I'm going to see you guys next time right here at the Council of Time. I think Pastor Paul's going to be on in about 30 minutes or so. It's always a joy to share things with you guys. I'll have something similar to this each Sunday. 2 more lined up for the next 2 Sundays already. One is pretty lengthy. But God bless you guys. I'm going to see you guys next time right here at COT. We'll still have our evening studies at 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, with a few exceptions. Saturdays are going to be designated presentation days, and Sundays, of course, the biblical stories. God bless and keep you. I'll see you guys next time, right here at COT.